Hey, what's going on? It's Quinn David Furness. Welcome to my show. Quinn David Furness presents the Beantown podcast for Sunday, September 15th, 2019. What's going on? How are you? My name is Quinn. This is my show. This is my voice, creator, producer, host, and showrunner. I like that one. Showrunner. SHOWRUNNER of this show, Quinn David Furness presents the Beantown podcast. We are your number one source for internet misinformation. We are one of the better podcasts on Chicago's north side. Well, what's happening? How are you? Very frustrating day in the football arena. Again, today is week 2 of the NFL season, both NFL-wise and fantasy-wise. It's been about as close to an unmitigated disaster as you can have it be. Just right off the bat, Vikings lose and the other 3 NFC North teams win. I mean, that's literally as bad as it goes. Let's dig into it. Quinn's upset, and I'm not going to spend much time talking about football. That wasn't even the point of this podcast. It's just I've had a busy weekend, and right now, in between the Bears game and the night game is when I have a chance to sit down and do the podcast. And so all that stuff is fresh on my mind. We're talking about skydiving for most of today's episode, which is obviously way more exciting, right, guys? So let's do our listener discretion is advised tag and then jump into a little bit of football. I think it's going to be therapeutic for me and for all you Bears and Packers fans out there and Quinn's fantasy football team haters. You can, maybe it'll be therapeutic for you too because you'll be listening to it and say, wow, it's about damn time someone shut Quinn up. Listener discretion is advised when you're listening to Beantown Podcast. Number 1, podcast will occasionally use some football-inspired language. And I'm thinking Mike Zimmer today because, boy, oh boy, I'm sure he didn't say anything to Kirk Cousins, but I have a fairly good idea of what he would have liked to say. Probably to Stefanski, too. With the 1st and goal, you're running it. It's honestly, I haven't seen this comparison made yet today, but it's somewhat similar to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl running it from first and goal from the 1, and they pass it, and it's picked off. When you have Marshawn Lynch and you've just been running it down their throats recently, it was the Vikings. They were just marching down the field, kicking the Packers' ass, running the ball, and all of a sudden, bad decision number 1, you say, okay, we're going to pass it. But bad decision number 2, well, one and a half, that they've tried that effing bootleg play again. That hasn't worked. And usually it's a money play for the Vikes. But the Packers were all over it. So it fails once, okay, try it again. Fails twice, well, maybe let's not do it again. He fails the 3rd time, you say, what the hell is going on? And then they try the 4th time, you're like, I don't really know what Stefanski is looking at. I don't know what game. Maybe they turned on the Dolphins game for him or something. But that's strike 1.5. Strike 2 is why the hell Kirk Cousins, man. If his first read's not there, he panics big time. He has no progression. He's not able to move. This is really the brunt of it right here, and I just have had this sudden realization. Kirk Cousins is not able to both progress through his reads and move his feet at the same time. So if Kirk Cousins has a completely clean pocket, and there's no collapsing of the pocket of any kind, and this is even before anyone's getting close to him, but maybe just the pocket's tightening a little bit. If that happens, he's not able to progress through his reads. All he does is lock onto one guy and hopes he gets open. I mean, you look at the Vikings' 2 biggest plays today. One was that phantom one to BB where he was being hit by behind, the ball kind of just came out and went to BB. The other one was, the bomb to Diggs that, frankly, a split second in either direction, that's an interception by the Packers guy. If Cousins wasn't even hurried that much. He got hurt a decent amount in the first half, but the second half he had lots of time. And the worst part about that interception in the end zone at the end of the 4th quarter there was he wasn't under pressure. He was rolling out, doing just fine. The first read, Thielen was covered definitely not a good idea to throw that ball, force it in there on first and goal, but not the worst option. So instead, Cousins decides, well, let's go to the back of the end zone where whoever was there, I don't remember who the intended target was, but double coverage. And when Cousins threw it, I was like, all right, perfect. He's just throwing it out the back of the end zone, second and goal from the 8, whatever. We're in good shape. Nope. Keeps it in bounds. Like, why? Why would you ever want that? It's awful football. It's just awful football. Number 2, the podcast is objectively terrible. The Bears game just finished. Absolutely unbelievable. I know Packers fans will disagree with this, but in my opinion, the roughing the passer call against Bradley Chubb there that put the Bears, it basically gave them a sliver of hope at the end of the game there was just, you could show me that play 100 times and show me a similar looking hit 100 times, and I wouldn't even blink. I would never think, oh, that there might be something there. If you haven't seen the play, just go on Twitter, search Bradley Chubb or roughing the passer. Trubisky is literally hit as he's releasing the ball. It's not a high hit. It's not a low hit. It's the cleanest of clean hits that you'll ever see. There's nothing, gruesome about it, nothing violent, nothing shocking. It's just a very standard football hit. It wasn't even out of the blue. The Broncos guy was being blocked by the offensive lineman as he went into Trubisky. Hand didn't hit the face. Trubisky's knees didn't get rolled up on, didn't hit his ankles. It was just the most basic defensive end play that you could coach. Gets called for 15 yards. And then Allen Robinson makes a good play. I don't know why Chris Harris touched him. I don't know why the officials decided to give the Bears a second back without reviewing it. Right? This is the whole thing. We spent so much time on stupid reviews today in the Vikings game, including calling back a touchdown for an offensive pass interference when Dalvin Cook is just trying to get out of the jam, which is just an awful call. And then you go to the Bears game and you're not going to review the roughing the passer, okay, whatever, but you're not going to review the fact that the clock says 0 and the game's over, but you decide, hey, you know what, let's give the Bears a second back. How can you just decide that without reviewing it? And if you review it and you come to the conclusion, hey, okay, we clearly see a timeout signal with a second on the clock, you wouldn't see it because it didn't exist, but if you do see it, okay, well, at least you did your due diligence, but they just decide to overturn the call on the field without reviewing, and it's just like, how is that a decision? And then, of course, the Bears kickers can't make a, whatever it was, 27-yard field goal to win a playoff game, but they can nail 53 and 54-yarders. So, yeah. And then my fantasy teams just, boy. Family one is still in it, thanks to a heroic performance from Patrick Mahomes, but had to go up against the Patriots defense, which scored 53 points, something like that, which, for context, is potentially a league record for us, and we've been playing for 14 years now. It's right around. I don't think any one of our defenses have ever gone up over 55, but I think we've seen 50-ish before. So going up against that, and then my school league team, man, they're just crap in the bed. Last year, when I won both my leagues, last year in my school league team, I took a lot of flyers on guys that were, not sure how they were going to perform, and they ended up way overperforming expectations, and I just rode them all season long. So tried a similar strategy this year. I pay a high price for 2 or 3 guys. This year it was Connor and Devontae Adams, and Connor gets hurt. Adams doesn't have a bad game, but it's just not the it's not the $55 that I paid for him type of game. You don't pay $55 in an auction draft to get a receiver who's consistently getting you 12, 13. It's not bad, but it just doesn't cut it for your big money purchase. Yeah. So I got absolutely smashed. After I was in full control last week in my school league game, completely blew it Monday night. Had a huge lead, 2 guys going against their one guy. Still looked good. Lost in the last, I think, drive of the game. It was just... So I'm not going to 0-2 in that league on my title defense. And just about ready to pack up shop, boy, because that team just looks like they're doing absolutely nothing this year. Yeah. Frustrating day. You especially coming off, winning 2 back-to-back or excuse me, concurrent championships in both my 2 leagues. You think to yourself, it's not going to happen again. We know that. But 2, you're going to have some weeks that are just real turds. T-U-R-D. But boy, this week was just a turd to top all turds. Your NFL team loses, all their rivals win. The fantasy team you really care about is in a very precarious position, not looking good. Your school league team, where you don't actually care that much, but you got money that you invested in it to the tune of $55, they get slammed. It's just, boy, all 4 things that you try to do successfully just completely smashed today. Okay. We're going to read some ads real quick. Then we're going to talk about skydiving. It's going to be a shorter episode just because Quinn's out of gas here, if you couldn't tell already. Plus, I drank a lot today. I don't usually drink on Sundays. I think I'm up to 5 or 6 light beers. So I'm not drunk by any stretch of the imagination, but just, kind of tired. Oh, I'll mention this before we read the ads. I went to Redmond's Bar in Chicago on Sheffield, which is a Vikings bar, and as far as I can tell, the premier Vikings bar in the city of Chicago. Boy, was that nuts. I didn't realize how crazy it was going to be until I actually walked in there. I thought, I'll get there early, I'll get a good seat, yada, yada, yada. So I pull in at 11:15, already SRO, shoulder to shoulder. That was nuts. Good energy at the bar. Had a cool DJ and stuff. Had the cool sound effect when the Vikes get a first down or a touchdown or a big play or whatever. And boy, did the Vikes have that one in the bag and just absolutely blew it. Courtesy of Kirk Cousins and more than 1, more than 2, more than 3 questionable calls from the referees. Boy, it was just... It's so frustrating when you climb the mountaintop and you're there. You're 8 yards away, and the play call is just, man, un-effing believable. Okay, ads, then some skydiving stories. So, all right, here we go. Home Pride, Oregon. Are you tired of selling your house for less than a quarter of what it's worth, all because you couldn't find a reliable home inspector in time? Well, Oregon listeners, there's good news. Home Pride Inspection Services in Bend, Oregon is Central Oregon's hottest new home inspection provider, with inspection services including things like heating and cooling, roofing, plumbing, and so much more. Home Pride Oregon is both contractor certified and home inspection certified, so you know you're getting the good stuff over and over again. If you are tired of big real estate stranglehold on the home inspection market and you want a safe, certified home inspector that you can trust, you better call Steve at 541-410-0316 or visit homeprideoregon.com. Again, that's 541-410-0316 or visit homeprideoregon.com. Home Pride Oregon Inspection Perfection. We want to give a quick shout out to the Samson Q2U series. Whether you're reading ads or whether you're complaining about your favorite football team and just how awful they played today, you got to trust the Samson Q2U series. It's crisp, it's clean, it's got great audio quality. When God speaks, he uses the Samson. Shout out to Toward Curves. We got their magazine on our coffee table here from IKEA. And I've only gotten the one magazine. In general, I haven't gotten much. My mail was a lot more fertile in Baltimore, in Beantown, and really, I pretty much get. I'm down to like one cool or interesting magazine every other month, and then my monthly bills for gas and electricity and sometimes internet. Sometimes Comcast decides we're going to send you something. Sometimes they just say, F it, we're not going to send you anything but charge anyways, which that's my favorite move. And then I get so many credit card offers from particularly Bank of America, but also Capital One. And their whole thing is like, any smart credit card company to try to lure you in is going to say, okay, here are some cool benefits or rewards or a special offer we have for you. Bank of America's thing is always like, you can get 3% back on gas. And I'm like, well, yeah, I buy a lot of gasoline with a car I don't own. And then effing Capital One, a lot of language today, I apologize. Effing Capital One, just did it again. Their whole thing is like, you're eligible for a Capital One card. And I'm like, okay, what are you offering with it? And they're like, no, the whole thing is that it's Capital One. And I'm like, well, what am I, the Queen of England? I don't need this some sort of status thing, and I don't even care. Who do I hang out with that's like flashing their credit card being like, oh, you only have a Citi card? Well, I have a Capital One. And I'm like, what? Who cares? I don't share my finances with people. So Capital One, who you crapping? Get out of here. Cuts by Q. Bob and weave, we all know the hairstyle. We all love it. But how many Chicago-based independent barbers can actually give it to you the way you deserve? Enter Cuts by Q. It's like Enter Sandman, but completely different. Cuts by Q has been independently owned and operated since 1995 and is probably one of the better barbershop operations serving Chicago, Cook County, and Chicagoland. From beehives to bangs, faux hawks to flat tops and everything in between. Better call Cuts by Q at 815-298-7200 or email cutsbyq@yahoo.com. Again, that's Cuts. I had a couple salt and vinegar chips earlier, and boy, do those things just effing destroy the inside of your mouth. Man, that's wild. QUTZ by Q at yahoo.com. Oh, when you need a fresh do, something snappy and new, just call the experts at Cuts by Q. All right. Quickly on the topic of songs, I was able to visit with some music friends, two of them being former roommates, yesterday, who live about a mile south of me, and they have a couple pianos, actually. But I went over there. We hung out, had some drinks, but also played some freeform jazz last night, which is really fun. And it was interesting because only one of us in the group that was, playing along, it was a jazz musician. But the rest of us all have music degrees, some of us multiple. And it was just fun, because you don't have to be that good at jazz to be able to play around and understand, give and take, keep the rhythm going, who's going to solo, that sort of thing. So, yeah, even though I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to jazz, voicings, harmony, that sort of thing, you can still make something that sounds, especially in, 21st century where everything is just kind of open for interpretation. This isn't, Miles Davis or Glenn Miller or something anymore. You can have some fun with it. I mentioned Miles Davis. He got pretty funky at the end there anyways. That was fun. I went skydiving yesterday, Saturday, in Rochelle, Illinois, Chicagoland Skydiving Center. So I had hoped to go skydiving about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. But I was shammed when my truck rental from Enterprise broke down on my way to Delaware. That was a bummer. Could not go skydiving. So I said, round 2, I'm going to go. There's a grad student at my place of work who also works a student job part-time as a tech worker. So he's in my office quite frequently helping me out, fixing some things here and there. A very nice guy, South Asian guy. It was his birthday yesterday, and a couple weeks ago said, hey, we're going to go skydiving. You want to come with? I said, sure. So he says there's a nice Groupon. We're going to do it. Plus, I've got some other discounts for me, at least, that I get to pile on. We're going to rent a car. We're going to drive to Rochelle from Chicago. It's going to be a fun day. I say, sure, I'll do it. So buy the Groupon online. It says instead of the $80 skydive jump, whatever, you can get it for $40. So it's like 50% off. Like, this is a great value. I can skydive for only $40. Awesome. So buy it a couple weeks ago, and sitting on my office Friday, and the tech guy who I'm going with comes down Friday afternoon and says, there was a miscommunication. It's now going to be an extra $100 just to skydive, plus the media package if you want it. Spoiler alert, I did not get the media package. And I'm like, oh, damn it, like another 100 just casually, like, oh, here it is. And, you know, I can handle $100, but just having it randomly come out of your budget when you're not expecting it is just a pain in the ass. You know, when you come across unexpected money, it feels really good. Well, when you come across unexpected expenses, it feels equally as bad, to me at least. So I'm like, all right, well, not ideal, but I'll do it anyways. So he says, okay, well, we'll pick you up at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. I'm going with him and his two friends that he knows, also some South Asian guys. So it's the four of us, and we're quite a crew, meeting some new people. It's exciting. It's a nice day, mid-70s, sun's out, guns out, no clouds. It's beautiful. Well, they're running a little bit late. I didn't want to eat in the morning because I think obvious reasons, you know, I don't know what it's going to be like when you go skydiving, but why not play it safe rather than sorry? You don't want to puke in the air. And also, I wasn't feeling nervous going into it, but who knows? Maybe, you know, we get to the actual place and I can be a nervous person at times. So I just didn't want to risk it. I was going to wake up and run yesterday morning, but it didn't happen because I ended up staying out too late Friday night playing office trivia, where we got third place. We could do a whole other podcast on that office trivia. Very frustrating, very disorganized. Missed at least one question, maybe two, because I physically did not understand the question because I could not hear it correctly from the noise. It was awful. Still got third. Proud of ourselves. Point of that tangent, I did not wake up to run on yesterday morning. So I haven't eaten anything. I get picked up, and get this, a Nissan Armada. Oh, yeah. Tim Allen. Rawr, 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 full power. If you don't know what a Nissan, new car, Nissan Armada looks like, I didn't either until I was picked up in one. Wow. It's like a van, but like a tank all in one. Pretty cool. Don't know why we got it for the four of us when we could have just gotten a sedan, but we had the Nissan Armada. I'm guessing it got about 5 miles to the gallon, maybe 6 on a highway. So you picked up the Nissan Armada, and, you know, I'm meeting the new guys that I have never met before. It's, you know, exciting. We're going to go skydiving. It's a friend's birthday. So we're driving out there, and I quickly learn, and, you know, apologies to my friends if they are listening to this podcast, but we know that there's 3 of you, sometimes 4, if one of my brothers tunes in, that listen to it. So I'm not expecting someone involved in this story to listen to it, and I'm not here to bash. I'm just going to tell you exactly how I felt. It was some really bad driving. In fact, the worst I've ever seen. Had a GPS going on the phone. Sometimes we would follow it, sometimes we wouldn't. Lower Wacker Drive was an adventure, as you might imagine. Had a time when we were stopped at a red light and a line of cars waiting to go, and just randomly accelerated, very nearly rear-ending the car in front of us for what seemed like no reason. It was just, and then, I recall visiting my brother Jack, #friend of the podcast, when he would live in Africa. And the driving out there, it was not bad driving, but the roads themselves are rough, and you're just always in the mountains. So there's a lot of twisting, turning, winding, etc. And I just remember feeling really nauseous during those rides. This brought it to a whole new level. The jolting, the physical speed at which we were driving. For some reason, we decided not to take the tollway out there to Rochelle, which is just an awful mistake. So we're going on all these country roads with a speed limit of 55, which is the highest speed limit you'll get for non-interstate roads in the state of Illinois, or non-highway roads, etc. we would periodically get up into the 85, 90 range and did, a lot of bobbing and weaving, hashtag cuts by Hugh, to pass cars on, these 2-lane roads with just a stripe down the middle or a dotted line, whatever you want to call it. It was just some of the most, I don't know. It was like we were in the show 24 or something and rushing against the clock for, I have no reason why. But we got there, and, a lot of people, when I told them I was going skydiving, they're like, oh, how'd you feel? Did you ever feel sick? Tell you what, I did not feel sick when I skydived, but I did throw up when I got to the place because of the driving situation was not ideal. Boy, that was rough. So we get there. It takes us a long time to check in, half an hour maybe, because there was a big conflict with the Groupon for whatever reason. And I've heard good things about Chicagoland Skydiving Center. Had a friend who used to work there. It was really bad. The check-in process was pretty awful. Yeah, not great. Pretty awful, in fact. I think I already used that adjective, but just took a long time. They said, no, you can't use your Groupon, and then it was going to be like, okay, so it's $150, and then I was like, well, I'm not doing it, and they're like, okay, well, you can use your Groupon, it's okay. I'm like, don't try to play me, BITCHs. And it just bad. By the time we check in, then it's still another 2 hours till we get to skydive. And it's just, you expect it, take some time. Skydiving isn't something where you just show up and it's like, all right, kids, let's go. Because there's planes and there's schedule and that sort of thing. But, the whole thing, by the time after we got there, was about 2.5 to 3 hours before we actually jumped. And that was just kind of frustrating, especially after the drive. I'm trying to remember, there was something else that went down that was really frustrating. The Groupon was a pain in the ass. I've never had just a straightforward positive experience with Groupon. It's always something going on. So we're just hanging out. We're getting ready to skydive, and we're in the hangar. And my 3 buddies, they all have their instructors. They've been given instructions. They head out to the plane, and I'm just standing there like a dummy because my instructor's not there. So I'm waiting for equipment. I'm waiting for his instructions. He finally comes, and the plane has been waiting for us for about 2 minutes. So I'm nervous, not because I'm like, oh, they're going to leave me behind, but just because it's like, this is you're entrusting someone with your life, which you can kind of just say it flippantly, but in all reality, it's a pretty big deal. And we're just kind of running. And I'm getting instructions like as we're getting on the plane and then on the plane, which is a lot because you're flying in this, tiny rickety old plane and going up, thousands and thousands of feet. And the doors open and you're sitting literally 2 feet away from it and you're getting instructions about how to jump and you're not even strapped in yet. And that's a lot to take in. I still wasn't nervous and I wasn't even anxious. It was just, and I really tried to fight against this. I really did. But I had a bad attitude. And I was excited to be there, but there had just been so many things going on. I hadn't eaten. The drive itself was 2 hours of just pretty hellish. Threw up when I got there. There was nothing left in my system. Waited, 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours to jump. So by the time we jump, it's 3 o'clock or something like that, and I haven't eaten, and I threw up, and that's just, it's a recipe for the opposite of success, failure. Long story short, the instructions, they were clear. My instructor was a nice guy. We jump. Everything went fine, except the harness absolutely slaughtered my balls. And I'm not afraid to just say it straight up. Brutal. Had to ice them when I got home. Really painful. Really rides up in the crotch. Boy, that was rough. Probably the worst testicular pain I've ever had, which is saying something, because I've been doing this for 24 years now. But yeah, that was tough. Overall, fun experience. The actual, the 15 minutes we spent going up in the plane and then coming back down, that was cool, minus the raging testicular pain. Everything else about it was rough. We drive back to Chicago. We get them to take the tollway. Thank God. So much shorter. Switch drivers even to another person. Pretty rough still. Just a lot of dodging and weaving on the interstate, going so fast and speeding up so quickly and then slowing down so suddenly. Just like, man. It's not even a thing where it's like, oh, you're wrecking the car. It's a Nissan Armada. This thing can handle it. But boy, for those of us in the back seat, it was. I had a fun time, but boy, that was a lot. So we get home, it's 6:00, and still hadn't eaten. So you'd say, well, Quinn, first thing you do is eat, right? No, because remember I had not ran. And you're thinking, well, you wouldn't be dumb enough to run when the sun's still out without any food in your body after throwing up. Well, that's what I did. Because and here's the thing: if I eat something, I'm not gonna run. I can't exercise after just eating. It just doesn't work for me. And I was meeting up with friends after that, so it's like this is my only shot. So I run. Actually felt pretty good. Ran a 5K. Got back. Went to the grocery store because I needed to get something for dinner. Ate a lot. Got some pork sausages and pierogi from the grocery store. Ate a lot. It was my first meal, in 24 hours or so. It felt good. Had some beers with the boys. Did our jazz improv as previously mentioned, and that was my skydiving experience. Overall, fun time. The Chicagoland Skydiving Center, I was not impressed with. The drive there and back, I was extremely not impressed with. But you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if I did it again, hopefully under different circumstances. But it was a cool experience. I would skydive again. I didn't catch the bug, as they say, and it's just an expensive hobby, Even if you are able to shimmy a Groupon in there, you're still paying, I think I paid $100, $115, something like that. That's a lot. So I'm making up for it tomorrow night doing a focus group on gaming. And we're talking about Call of Duty. Focus group in downtown Chicago. It's a pain in the butt because it doesn't start till 7:45. It's awful because I can't do anything. Get off work at 5. Just held hostage in my office for 2.5 hours basically. I'll eat some dinner, but then what do I do for the other 2 hours? I don't know. And I don't know. I might text somebody to be like, hey, you want to meet up after work? But it's a Monday night. And if on my average Monday night, if someone texted me and was like, you want to meet up after work? I'd be like, F you, I'm going home, I'm cooking, I'm watching Monday Night Football. That's the other thing. I didn't even think about this until literally right now. I'm missing Monday Night Football. Usually these focus groups are like 6 to 8 or something. And you can do it. You can get home. You still have a night. But this is 7:45 to 10. $140. So it's, paying for that skydiving. But just missing pretty much all of Monday Night Football. Will not really get to see any of it. So, that's what's going on. And there's a Cubs game tomorrow, too, I believe. And these games are becoming very important. That's what I did. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always email us, beantownpodcast@yahoo.com. Or if you're saying to yourself, hey, we would love for you to collaborate with somebody again, or maybe you're listening to this podcast because you're thinking this is the closest thing I can get to the Car Ride Convos podcast. What? Who said that? I did. And you're saying, where is it? You can email us, and we will email Ryan, Austin, Ligon, Kirsten English, dumbass. And we will let them know, hey, the fans want it. That's what I got for you. Beantown Podcast, Yahoo.com. Once again, Beantown, BNT Podcast at Yahoo.com. Reminder, I co-host the White Noise Podcast with Matt Fiedler. You can check out that podcast on Anchor FM or anywhere else you find your podcasts. We are there. Haven't had a new episode in a while. Don't have any. I don't have any updates for you. All I know is we have 3 that are ready to go. I can't explain why one of them hasn't been posted, but they haven't. So be looking out for like a triple header one of these days because we've got some really good stuff coming down the hopper. I just don't know when the hopper is going to be open for business. So that's all we have. We'll check in with you next week. Going to be spending some time in Milwaukee this week. More than some time, 4 or 5 days. Should be fun, 4 days. All right, that's all I got for you. Everyone have a good week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave us a little review on Apple Podcasts or wherever if you haven't already. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to the #friends of the podcast. Go Vikes, and we will check in on you next time.